When you take a look at the Brett Sargent Collection, you're actually looking at him. If you talk to him for more than 30 seconds, you realize that perfection is something that is very important to him. And that's reflected in all of his vehicles.
I'm a person that no matter what I do, I strive for excellence and try and be the best that I can possibly be. And with all these cars, it was always about doing it right. I've put a lot of effort into making sure that these cars are not only look beautiful, but they run and work as good as they look. For the last 10, 12 years, I've spent a lot of time attending shows, traveling around the country. I want to feel confident that I've got the best car every time I go to a show.
Ten cars, General Motors, Ford, Mopar, and Mercedes-Benz represented. These cars all have a great story when it comes to why they're in his collection and the background behind them.
My first love was always Fords, because my father and my grandfather were more or less Ford guys. The Ford GT is one of the very few cars that I've ever bought that I didn't hardly have to do anything to. It belonged to Stephen Becker, which is, a lot of people know that name as a Shelby expert. Stephen bought the car new and has maintained it at a very high level since day one. That was one of the reasons I selected that car.
2005, 2006, that generation of the Ford GT was a bombshell when it arrived. Only about 1,900 were built in 2005. It's rare to find one in the condition that Brett's is in that has had that many miles put on it. And yes, it has all four options. It has the lightweight wheels, the painted brake calipers, the Macintosh stereo, and the racing stripes. And the color red, that's a throwback to the 1967 Ford GT, which won the 24 Hours of Le Mans with Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt. A lot of history represented by that car. The 1967 GT500 represents a demarcation point in the lineage of the Shelby Mustang. They basically threw out everything that they had represented in the previous 2 years and came up with a true GT car. Creature comforts, air conditioning, kinds of things that people 2 years earlier would have nothing to do with.
The 67 is just a stunning car. I got it home and the paint wasn't at the level that I wanted it to be. So I immediately took it to my restoration shop and wrote a check for $47,000 for the new paint job. They removed all the stainless and polished it all and then had the plating done as well. And when they painted that car, they completely disassembled it. All the interior is original in that car and in very, very nice condition. That car is ready to go on the show circuit anywhere, and I believe it's going to make a real impact when somebody shows up with it.
The 428 engine in that car made 355 horsepower. It's got the right engine, the right transmission. It's a 4-speed car, great color combination. Whoever winds up buying this GT500 will truly have one of the better ones available. The 1968 GT500 KR, that raised the bar between 1967 and 68. What's interesting is that the horsepower rating in the KR was lower than the GT500 in 1967. It was rated at 335, but anybody who knows anything about these cars will tell you it was closer to 400 horsepower.
When I bought the 68 KR, that was something real special to me. I spent 2 years sorting that car out and getting it to be the way that I want it to be. It's got tons of torque, all kinds of power, just drives fantastic.
Among Shelby collectors, if you're going to get a 68 GT500, look for one like Brett's.
The Thunderbirds, they appealed to me, my family. We'd get a new Thunderbird, at least once every other year. Sometimes once every year, but at least every other year. I realized that they were a unique car, that there was a blend there that between luxury, sport, it was kind of a status type of situation for them to own a new Thunderbird.
Two very exceptional Thunderbirds in Brett's collection. I mean, it is just such a kick to see these cars. In 1957, Ford had already begun the transition into the 4-seat car in 1958. So they wanted to go out with a bang. They wanted to have a Thunderbird that people would remember as being a performance car. They had a dual quad car, but they had a supercharged car, and Brett has that F-code car. which to any 57 Thunderbird aficionado is the cream of the crop.
My small Thunderbird is an F code, which is a factory supercharged car. The restoration on that car, we've got over 2,600 hours into it. There's restorations and then there's real restorations. And this one is the latter. Every single component, transmission, engine, all the brakes, all the bearings. That car was completely taken apart, rebuilt. Everything was done like brand new. It's the nicest restored car I've ever seen. The car has garnered first place, best of show trophies, received an Excellence in Authenticity Award. It is the best of the best.
Ford came along in 1962 and came out with what was a kind of like a variation of the Thunderbird convertible. It was called the Sports Roadster. Very collectible and desirable today. It has what's called the M code engine, 390 cubic inches, 3 two-barrel carburetors. Rarity right off the chart.
I have an M Roadster that I've taken all over the country as well. It's garnered quite a few first place trophies, best of show. In '62, they built a few over 100 of them, and there's 41 known left to still exist. And this particular car was built on the second day that they were manufacturing M Roadsters. The one that I'm selling is the earliest one that's left.
Lots of manufacturers throughout the world have made coupes, but when you say split window coupe, you can only be talking about one car, the Corvette split window coupe from 1963.
The 63 is multiple top flight winner, was picked by Vet Views in 2015 as their car of the year. It's just a beautiful, beautiful car.
Sebring silver, independent four-wheel suspension, 340 horsepower, 327. It's a 4-speed car. First time air conditioning was available in a Corvette. When you take a look at his 1963 split window coupe, it's probably the next best thing to being able to go back to 1963 and seeing one for the first time.
I think everybody has a soft spot in their heart for Corvettes. And the 58, it's a top flight car, Bloomington Gold car, scored almost a perfect score. I just had to buy that car when I saw it. My favorite color is turquoise and teal. I just couldn't hardly drag myself away from that car when I first found it, and I spent a ton of money on that car. It is brand new from end to end.
Of course, I'm going to warm up to his 1996 Viper GTS coupe. This is another car that when it hit the market, everybody's head turned around. This coupe, it was a reflection of the Daytona coupe from the 1960s, 450 horsepower from the factory, close to a 200-mile top speed, and this condition. If you take a look underneath that car, it looks like it's never been driven at all. It looks like it might have delivery miles on it.
The Viper is absolutely the nicest one I've ever laid my eyes on. It has just over 2,000 miles, and I'm very particular, and I went all over that car, and it's virtually a new car. Even underneath, it's just a fantastic car.
Mercedes-Benz has always had great high-performance cars. His SLS AMG is a perfect example of combining high performance with usability.
The SLS was a one-owner car. The car is a combination of sport, luxury, and just the finest craftsmanship. It is absolutely one of the nicest cars I've ever driven.
Those gull-wing doors, which are a reflection of the original 300 SL in 1954, still will stop a crowd dead in its tracks when you get out of that automobile and those doors go up. Power, 563 horsepower. At the time, it was the most powerful naturally aspirated engine you could get in a Mercedes-Benz. Almost a 200-mile-an-hour top speed, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. It's what I call a 5-tool player. Acceleration, top speed, braking, handling, and styling. All there. Brett's 1956 Ford Sunliner convertible. A book could be written about this automobile. Let's just get past the restoration. Let's talk about the awards that it's won. His garage has awards on every single wall, and yet that car's responsible for probably half of them.
The Sunliner was my dad's car, and he owned it twice. And the gentleman that he got it from, Phil Saccotti was this guy's name. Absolutely loved that car. He spent 7 years restoring it. He needed the money out of the car, so he sold the car. My dad bought the car. He owned it for 4 or 5 years, and Phil used to call him almost every month. And finally, my dad said, well, obviously you would like to have your car back. How about if I sell it back to you for what I paid for it? And he was just elated. Later on, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I hunted Phil down and I bought that car back. And we surprised him with it. That was one of my favorite things in my whole life. That car is like part of our family.
This is a vehicle that is special in its condition and history, and that, certainly for Brett, that makes it unreplaceable. We rarely, if ever, have had these cars come to Kissimmee in the condition that Brett's cars are in. They are more than a cut above.
This has been another job for me for a long time. I've taken it very seriously and done everything I can do to keep them at a level that's probably not very common in the car hobby.
Somebody is going to be leaving Kissimmee with automobiles that perhaps are beyond what they even expected.